Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Cameras and Coffee. And a very grumpy Steinbeck who had his stitches out yesterday and knows now that he's having a bath today. Poor guy. Okay, so today's topic is going to be that 220 is the most important film format to bring back and preserve. But before we jump into that, you may of course have noticed over the past 6 weeks my blue and yellow tie has been making an appearance every one of these videos. I will leave you to figure out the reason for that. I don't need to spell it out. Only suffice to say that not taking any stand only ever benefits aggressors. So that said, I've been trying to think about different ways to help. So I shot an email to Astrom Photo, which is in Ukraine, in, of all places, northeast Ukraine, yesterday. Have not heard back, not shocking, from them yet. If I haven't heard back in a week, I'll try and follow up with them. What I'm trying to do is figure out whether or what their status is. You know, I did pick up 20 rolls of Svema from Freestyle yesterday, and I'm looking forward to getting that. But it had occurred to me that one thing that I could do to try to help is find out the status of Astrom and their factory, and also if it is possible to order from them to do just that, even if it's through a distributor. So at any rate, if I hear anything back, I will let you know what they have to say. And Astrom, if anybody from there is watching this video, feel free to reach out to me as well. Okay, let's jump into 220 is the most important film format to save or to bring back, whatever, however you want to term it. So yesterday I got an email from CineStill. It was a bulk email. I'm not special. They didn't send me something directly. But it was a bulk email that went out to a lot of different people on one of their distros, indicating that they were going to release 400D, their new color film, in 220 format. Coincidentally, this past weekend, I pulled out the S2A, and I took it out to Rifle Falls State Park here. I was shooting the Flectagon 55 millimeter and the 80 and the Nikkor 18 centimeter 2.5. With that, and the Kimura 100. So those were the 4 lenses I brought along, and a boatload of Acros 2 and ShangHai GP3, including my 3 rolls of 220 GP3. And it was fantastic. And shooting 220 is much different than shooting 120. So it got me thinking about how great a format 220 is. So as I've shot more and more 35 millimeter, So as I've shot more sheet film and more medium format, my photographic style has become much more deliberate. And here is a scene. Do I want to take a photo of it? And if so, yes. How am I going to construct this image? Because I have 2 shots, a sheet film shot and then a sheet film safety shot at most for this. What do I want to do? Whereas with 35 millimeter, it's like, oh, hey, click, 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 and move on. But that's the way it used to be with 35 millimeter. Shooting medium and large format, where I have to conserve my shots for only the better shots, has filtered into my 35 millimeter style, where I look through the viewfinder and I say no way more often than I used to. And so shooting a roll of 36 shots, or in half frame, 72, it takes so much time. So much time. It's like 36 is just too many frames. I've become really happy with shorter rolls. 24 frames is fine. It's fine. It's as much as I ever want to go, really. When I spool my own film, it's usually 18 to 24 frames. And in 35 millimeter, obviously. So I was thinking about 220 and how 24 frames on 6x6, or what's that, 16 on 6x9, and is it 16? So be it 16 or 32, I think it is, 32 or something like that, on 645. And 20, of course, on 6x7 is really an ideal number of frames. 645, 220 is actually almost a little bit too long. But the number of frames on 220 is pretty darn close to ideal for the medium formats. And 220 also strikes me as being less wasteful than 120. Because with 120, you have that whole paper backing, right? It gets used one time and then it's thrown away. I don't think it's recyclable because of the way it's made. Maybe I'm wrong about that. And then you have a plastic spool that gets pitched. But with 220, much more of the film is actual film, and there's no paper backing behind that 220 film. It's a length of paper leader, double length of 120 film, and an exit of paper leader for light protection when you finish spooling it. So there's way, way, way less waste there because the film that you're taking, you're going to develop and then archive, in theory, after you finish developing it. I know for a long time Ilford hasn't made 220. I understand it because of their machine not working and so forth, but with CineStill having access to a 220 spooling machine and GP3, the Shanghai company, clearly having in their possession a 220 spooling machine, it seems like it might be possible at some point in the foreseeable future for 220 to be revived as a format. And for us medium format shooters, we should all be exceedingly happy about that because it gives us a way to shoot more shots and an appropriate number of shots per roll with less waste, because we don't need any more chemistry in our tanks to develop 220 than we do 120. You can use the exact same tank with just a 220 developing reel to develop it. And so you don't increase your chemistry costs at all. You actually offset them to the tune of a handful of milliliters due to the added amount of film in the tank. So at any rate, 220, exceedingly exciting. And for those of you who will take your 220 film and send it off to a lab, dip and dunk machines like labs use can handle 220 just fine because they do 35 millimeter. And it's no more or less wasteful for them to do 220 developing than 120. And again, because there's no backing paper for that big length of film, it's less waste. So for those of you who are looking at GP3 as a film to buy and have a camera that can use 220 film, I strongly, strongly suggest giving a few rolls of that a try and seeing how it works for you. I'm enjoying it a whole bunch. And then also one of the advantages of that is if we show, as photographers, if we show the manufacturers that there is in fact a market for 220 film again, that would encourage other manufacturers, big ones, with yellow as perhaps one of their corporate colors, or white, or red, to look at whether or not they have the capability of obtaining or repairing or reactivating their 220 production lines and spooling machines. So, very excited to see CineStill releasing a 220 format film. I am absolutely buying that as soon as it is available on the market. And also strongly recommend that if you look at GP3 and can shoot 220, just going straight to getting the 220 format for GP3. So let me know what you guys think about 220 and whether or not the CineStill announcement about it coming back for them being the first color 220 film in a very, very long time is exciting to you, and what you think about that announcement in the future of 220 medium format film. I'll see you guys in the next Cameras and Coffee.